Good evening, everyone. Namaskar. A very warm welcome to the Empowering Talks of Vatsalya Legacy. I am Avantika Sharma, the project director of Vatsalya Legacy, which is one of the leading organizations for counseling, teaching, and training. Today, it has a successful build faith and awareness with more than 100 establishments across the country, guiding parents, students, teachers, and professionals with their various services like holistic and versatile training sessions, career coaching, child safety, as well as shifting the paradigm with conscious parenting guidance. So today our first episode is of empowering talks is on let's break the myth, not the bones. So this is all about breaking all the myths about exercise, posture, and nutrition. We have a vibrant panel of Miss Mansi Padechia, registered dietitian Mumbai, Dr. Ayushi Jain, physiotherapist from Mumbai, Mr. Vineet Baptist, fitness and wellness coach, Kolkata, and Miss Manisha Nolakha, Zumba education specialist from Rajasthan. So this session will be moderated by Ms. Nisha Jain Grover, the founder and director of Vatsalya Legacy. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. A very warm welcome to all the panelists. Thank you so much to come today evening to enlighten all the viewers of Vatsalya Legacy and your own page. So let's start the session. As the session says, let's break all the myths and not bones. So I want to start my first question with our dietitian Mansi. So, Mansi, most of the people around us, no matter what age, have started believing into crash dieting, and they are getting attracted to this intermediate fasting and uh, things related to it that उपवास करेंगे कम खाएंगे तो पतले हो
Yeah.
जाएंगे. I want you to throw some light on that.
So there are a lot of fad diets which are available in the current scenario, but apparently what suits you makes more sense. There is something called as a balanced diet. So when you eat the nutrients as per your body requirement, body will start responding as a byproduct. But if you just take one nutrient, basically in a keto diet, basically to take only fat, so it's not achieving your body requirement. It is meant for certain kind of health issues that is called as epilepsy or in a certain health issues, but it's not vice versa. It's not versatile for everyone. So just an example of the fat diet. So I feel balanced diet is the best way of achieving your body goals. So if you and about intermittent fasting, and there are a lot of awareness about it, but what suits you, we should understand your body type and take the decision about it. It's not like everyone is doing, that's why I'm going to do about it. So that's my like yeah.
And what about intermediate fasting?
Intermittent fasting really work, no doubt about it, but somewhere down the line some people who has a lot of bloating or a lot of health, like in terms of acidity, initially they find it difficult in that, so gradually they can get accustomed to it, but it depends again. So like again, some people, diabetic individual might have the people who are on the insulin might have a hypoglycemia. So again, it is very it's not a generalized situation where everyone is can go with it. It is fantastic thing, but it's not a generalized thing.
It's not generalized. Okay. So my next question goes to Ayushi. Dr. Ayushi,
Yeah.
many people believe that when they start exercising, no matter what age group, there ought to be some pain in the knee, and it is quite obvious. So, what is your say on that?
So, it's something as basic as when we are, for example, doing any exercise or squatting, for example, many a times women or men feel some click in their knee while coming up usually, and they usually say, "Oh, ye to hota hai, it's okay, click is my body's opening up, I feel good." But something as simple as a click, which is abnormal for your body, a click means there's something abnormal in your knee. There's some derangement in your knee, which is giving a click. So that today is not giving pain, but in future it's going to give you pain and worsen the condition. So when you're having pain while doing any movement, it's like your body is talking to you. So understand the pain, and there's something like good pain and bad pain, what we call. Today's generation believes it's like no pain, no gains. But there's a very fine line between that good pain and that bad pain, where you feel that sweet pain while doing the muscle work, and where you feel that muscle soreness and your body tells you, okay, stop and don't take the painkiller, but appreciate the pain and, check it out. What is happening? Why do you have
Yes.
that pain? Yeah.
Many people think this, that, if it is paining means you're doing it correctly.
Yeah, but there's a very fine line between that. Like that sweet pain what we feel and then muscle soreness which we feel and still we feel, oh ठीक है ये तो होता है, I'll do the other body parts. But no, get it
Okay.
checked, get it totally resolved and then continue.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So my next question goes to Vineet. Vineet, can you tell me what is the difference, since you are a wellness coach, what is the difference between losing weight and being fit? Vineet, you're not audible. Vineet, you're not audible. So meanwhile, I think there's some technical glitch. Meanwhile, we'll take a question to Manisha. Manisha, you are a Zumba education specialist and you are really spreading this new way of being fit, that is Zumba. And it has recently been one of the most loved form of exercise for the new generation. So when it comes to fitness, people who are not in rhythm, people who finds it difficult to exercise in rhythm, how do people like those come into Zumba?
Okay, yes, you're right. It's one of the most talked about and the hottest fitness program that people are adhering to. But yes, you by saying that people who don't have rhythm, you mean to say people who have two left feet. Basically, there's a myth behind Zumba that it's for dancers and it's a dance class, which I want to say that it is not a dance class. It is a dance fitness class. So the aim is not to teach you dance, but the aim is to give you a good cardio workout, a good aerobic workout. And the steps in the Zumba class are very easy, very non-intimidating, so you can follow it. There is a lot of repetitions and a lot of the instructor is doing along with you the steps, so you can see and follow. So it's a fun class where everybody is dancing together. Even men sometimes feel shy of entering a Zumba class, I know, but they should go to a Zumba class because where do you find the most good looking girls in a Zumba class? So if you
I
want to
think
see
I think to improve eye-hand coordination, nothing can be better than dance or Zumba fitness.
Yes, right, right. Of course, it improves a lot of things along with losing weight, which is a byproduct. There are a lot of things that Zumba class can help you with, and hand and eye coordination is one of them. Then, of course, you improve your reflexes, your memory skills, your motor skills, your cognitive skills. Lot of course, it's a lot of learning. People get that stress when going inside the Zumba class, but once you're inside, or if you look at a Zumba class from outside, you will see that everyone of all shapes and sizes are there, and they're totally not in sync, which is okay because we're not teaching you dance. And the idea is to get moving, to have a good sweat, to have a good cardio class, along with having fun, which is the idea of a Zumba class. So, yes, that myth should be broken that it is for only dancers. It's for everyone of all shapes, all sizes, no matter what.
Great, great. So my next question comes to Mansi. Mansi, many people are now talking about mental awareness, mental well-being and all of that. So, since I'm a psychologist myself, and I see a lot of people indulge in emotional eating and in binge eating. So, food plays a very important role when it comes to emotions and feelings. So, can you just elaborate a bit on this?
Yeah, so there is a fine line between a physical hunger and emotional hunger. So we need to understand what is a physical hunger. So if I give you the differentiation between that, so what is like where you feel it. So when is a physical hunger, my stomach is growling, but whereas it is an emotional eating, my mouth is watering. So I just saw like a pav bhaji is made, and I like my mouth is watering, but I just had my meal, so it was like an emotional. emotional hunger. Then it will be like a timing. I just had a meal, but my snack box is opening after my dinner. So again, that was the emotional eating. So I was not hungry. So it was just because I'm getting bored or I'm watching a TV. That's why I need to have my food. So that is called as a emotional hunger. But whereas generally physical hunger, then it's predictable that it will come within the 3 hours. It is not going to come immediately. So that much awareness is needed. Then what happens is like a rate of hunger. You are very, very hungry. You cannot control. And a rapid hunger is it's out of control. Whereas in the physical hunger, it's a slow. Like after 3 to 3.5 hours, you will be hungry. It's not very rapid hunger. Whereas in the emotional, because you are constantly thinking, you are stressed, or maybe or you just you are eating to solve your depression or de-stress yourself. You tend to eat that. So again, that is the emotional hunger. And other is
Okay.
like you're in physical hunger, you are open to diverse food. Like I will have a roti dal sabzi. I'm not specific with my what food I need. Whereas in emotional eating, you want like no, I want like a waffle only. I want a pasta only. I want a nachos. So those are the emotional eating. And generally, in emotional eating, people would like for the desserts. They have a major craving for the desserts. And this can happen during the phase of a hormonal imbalance, or maybe the stress, or maybe overthinking situation. So those are the changes which happens in your body that will stimulate. Or maybe there could be possible, there are nutrient deficiencies. So if my diets are very low in the protein, then I would crave for the I will crave for the sugar based food because my body is asking for nutrients. There was a confusion about that. So I feel,
Okay.
yeah,
This myth has broken for me also. Bowling and mouth, when the mouth waters, there was so much. There's such a major difference in this. Fine. So we are having Vineet back with us. Okay. So Vineet, my question again comes to you. What is the difference between losing weight and being fit? Can you hear me, Vineet? We are not able to hear you. I think there's some technical issue with Vineet. So my question goes to Ayushi. Ayushi, my question is this, that I was speaking to you some days ago. You had mentioned even in your Instagram story that even a simple headache can be because of wrong postures, and there are
Right,
many
yeah.
health issues like headaches, which can be because of wrong postures. So can you just elaborate that?
Of course. So posture, you very rightly mentioned the perfect example, which many people don't know. That's why I put it on our ASIA page on Instagram. Like a poor posture can lead to headache. We always think, oh, maybe it's migraine, it's the food I ate, or it's the sunlight. But just correcting of our upper body posture, which were not slouching and neck posture, it relieves the headache. And it's not only that, it's like something like your lungs. When you have a slouch posture, your lung expansion is also affected. In fact, when women standing for long, on one leg while working, especially in these lockdown times, long standing just on one leg, it's leading to something called as varicose veins, which many of us already know as. Basically, the blood flow is affected in the lower limbs. So again, that is because of a poor posture. And we already know our other things like the nerves compression in our spinal cord because of a poor posture. So basically, a posture from headache to lungs to our, stomach also, the digestion because of poor posture, organs get compressed and it's affected. So good posture is important and it can heal every condition in our body, according to me.
Okay, very well said. Manisha, I wanted to ask you one thing. When it comes to yoga, when it comes to bodybuilding, when it comes to all the other forms of exercise, there's a very big myth that we need a lot of discipline, lot of motivation when it comes to all these forms of exercise. And Zumba mein kya hai? Zumba is all fun. Just go, dance, and come back. So, what role does discipline play when it comes to Zumba?
Yeah, so good question. Zumba is a no-brainer actually. You're meant to go, actually have a good cardio workout, sweat it out, and no stress. The idea of it is to have a stress-free, great workout, not thinking too much, and there's no preparation or a practice going on for the participants. I'm saying. You don't need to prepare or practice it every day back in your home. You just have to go to a class. But the discipline of being regular in a Zumba class for the results to show, and for you to get a hang of it if you're a totally new beginner, is there, of course. But of course, you don't need to have that discipline like in yoga or something which you're practicing on your own as well to get better. But of course, there are discipline, as you say, is in any field.
Okay. Okay. So my next question will be with Mansi now. Mansi, my question is, what do you mean by 6 meals a day? And people like us, even you who are working, and probably people like us who are in training, where the training goes on for the whole day. 6 meals kya kabhi kabhi to 2 meal bhi nahi we can take on time. So what do you mean by the 6 meals a day? And is it very important for an individual to go for 6 meals a day?
So, if I say in the layman language, it's called as a small frequent meal. So, the right now, India is like a second capital of obesity. Everyone is looking for the losing weight, and that's why we need to maybe eat very small frequent meals. But when we have a 2 meals only per day, then what happens that our portion in the second meal is too high. Then the idea of achieving our goals about the weight loss is not there. So there are 4 major meals, that's a breakfast, lunch, snacks, and dinner, and 2 meals will be filler, so that we are not overeating or undereating in that case. And eventually we have to ensure that our nutrients are reaching up to our body. So if I have just 2 meals, then I will not able to reach my body requirement as well. So with that regards, it's important that if I spread it out throughout the day, then at least my body is getting the nutrients which I need per day to achieve in a day's time. So I feel
Okay.
in that regards, meal concept or maybe 4 meal is a good concept.
So even for small children, say between 3 to 8 years, they should be taking 6 small meals.
So, like in the schools and colleges also, they have a breaks like at mid like between 10 a.m. and to 12 noon, they have a breaks. So with that regards only, with to freshen up them and also to eat something, because you're constantly, your mind is work, so your mind needs some energy. So if small
Okay.
meals are there, the energy is also been there. So I think small frequent meals is for the all age group. It's not only standardized for one kind of age group or only adults or only the teenagers.
Okay. Okay. Can we have Vineet again? Are you there, Vineet, now?
Nisha, can you hear me now?
Yes, yes, yes. Finally, yes. So, Vineet, my question comes back to you, and it's the same question. What is the difference between losing weight and being fit?
Oh, all right. So when clients walk in, their usual terminology is, I want to lose weight, right? And they have this obsession about checking their weight on the scale time and again, maybe multiple times in the day sometimes. So what we need to inform them is that what they should be looking as recomposition, as in losing body fat and gaining some kind of lean muscle mass, so that their day-to-day life also becomes easier in terms of functionality. And whereas the ultimate aim should be, and one when a person wants to lose weight or fat, whichever you want to term it as, so the idea is to actually create a caloric deficit. What it basically means is eating slightly lesser than you're actually burning. So after you achieve that over a period of time, obviously this doesn't happen in the day, in one single day. So once you've reached or accumulated enough calorie deficit, you automatically start losing fat. All your other macros or other macronutrients have to be obviously dialed in. Whereas weight loss can always be, masked by water retention because of stress, undersleeping, etc., etc.
Okay. So, my question goes to Ayushi now. Ayushi, what are some age appropriate things that every individual should take care to keep their joints and bones at par till the time they are alive? So I mean age appropriate. So I would like you to put some light right from a pre-primary child, because they run and they do all kinds of things. There are children even do gymnastics. and even for somebody who's like now around 60, 65, and 70 years old?
Yeah. So, if they're kids, of course, we already know calcium, vitamin D is very important. Like, if the bones are strong as you're a kid, it's going to give you less, problems when you're in future. But for kids, weight-bearing activities, I mean, running, playing tennis, anything where their joints or their feet are going to be weight beared upon on the ground, that is going to be very good for their muscles and bone growth and strengthen their bones. Now, when you come to adolescent or when we say teenagers, all the teenagers have this spurt, okay, workout karna hai. My friend is going to the gym, even I have to go to the gym. My friend is doing this, even I have to do this. Well, it's
Hmm.
not like that. Your friend may be going to the gym, but your body type may be opting for something else. Your friend may have six packs, but you may be better at swimming or some other thing. So you have to choose according to your body type, your fitness. Be fit, but choose it according to your body type. Now, when you come to ages of around 35 to 50, when we have women who have given birth or going through menopause, or men probably through midlife crisis and all, for them, the goal should be toning. It's not about getting more fitter or something. Of course, getting fitter, but toning. So opting for something like Pilates or something like yoga, where you're going to tone specific muscles of your body which are weak, and it's not going to give you issues in the future. And when we come to elderly, like, when we say 70 plus and all, it's not that any joint pain, I have to go for a surgery now, or any joint pain, I have to bed rest, I cannot do it. No, I mean, still, even then, you can be fit, strengthen the joint without a surgery or without something. You can still, continue maintaining your range, strengthen with a good physical program, with a good physical training. So, yeah.
Ayushi, there's a question for you from a viewer, and she's asking, would like to know more about low back care if a person is into intensive workouts, nearly 2 to 3 hours a day. So, what care that person should be taking? Her name is Nidhi Agarwal.
Of course. So, hi Nidhi. So, 2 to 3 hours a day, if you are working out and your back is hurting at the end of it, like I said in my first question itself, it is now your pain talking to you. Why don't you opt with the 2 to 3 hours a day, maybe drop it 1 hour, opt for something which is going to tone your muscles and specific muscles. I mean, your core, your glutes, which is going to hold your back so that your back is held when you're going to do the same other workout. For example, doing a burpee, if your glutes and core is strong, it is going to help you train that. So maybe strengthen specific muscles once a day or twice a day, which will help with your low back pain.
Okay, very well explained, Ayushi. My question now comes to Vineet. Vineet, you are working on something which is called as pain mechanism. Can you just elaborate on that? What do you mean by pain mechanism? Are you there, Vineet? I think some technical issue again. Okay, so we go back to Mansi. Mansi, there are many dietitians and nutritionists, I would say, cropping up like mushrooms everywhere, doing some random courses, say 6 months, 1 year, and they claim they are nutritionists. And they are even working on people who have chronic diseases like thyroid or diabetes or something like that. So, what is your say on that? And how should one be sure that they are going to a right person?
So there is a registered dietitian is a qualified degree what we have in our profession. So they are studying about 5 years of intensified studying in details clinical nutrition and biochemistry and biology in detail. So we know what exactly is happening. We have a 6 month internship in the hospital. So we know we have dealt with the various clinical cases as well, so we know how to deal with it. But whereas the quacks who are doing in just 3 months or 4 months, they are not been trained in detail. So it's like the difference between, there's not much of knowledge which is there. So they must be using what is upar ka knowledge, what they will be giving you. And somewhere down the line, when you're beginning in the initial phase, you will feel, you will have the results, because small change also is going to make a difference to you. So I feel like if you're going to a qualified nutrition, she can give you explanation also why it's happening, and you can take it for as a lifestyle change also for longer duration. So I feel understanding why it's happening, how to take care of it, that makes more sense. And there are quacks 100%, but identifying whether and first of all, when you are inquiring with the dietitian, just ask her whether she is a registered dietitian or no, or she can deal with health issues, or even she's claiming about the health issues, you can ask about her experience and where she has experienced in hospital or no.
Okay. Okay. So, Mansi, there's a question for you from Mr. Rishi Singh. Is keto diet good for weight loss? And what's your opinion on keto diet?
Even I mentioned same thing in my first question. Keto diet is a fat diet. It's meant for like a health issues called as epilepsy. So if you ask me, I do not specifically give the keto diet, but in the cases like a morbidly diabetic individual or epileptic individual, we give the keto diet. It's very high in the fat, but Indian body is not able to grasp that. So it's very technical way of going ahead. So I feel it is, if it's meant for certain health issues, let's connect with that and do not take it
Okay.
as quick fix. Like you will get the result about 10 kilos in a 10 days or something, but it is not sustainable because we cannot we cannot relate with it and can continue as a lifestyle. So
True.
that's
Very
my
true.
yeah.
Very true. Mansi, sorry, we go to Manisha now. Manisha,
Yeah.
what are the possibilities of hurts and jerks and different kind of injuries when it comes to Zumba? Because what I know of, maybe I'm wrong, Zumba is not going muscle wise as we go in the gym or as we go to an yoga expert. You know, they would say that today we are doing glutes, today we are doing arms, today we are doing legs. Zumba is full body workout. So people like me also have a myth that, you know, when you work out like this and being overweight or being heavyweight, there can be a lot of injuries if you directly go for Zumba without even, you know, doing something else. So what's your say on that?
See, you're right. It's not a muscle group because it's not strength training or conditioning as per se.
Hmm.
It's a
Right.
workout, aerobic workout, which is aimed for your heart health. Okay. So when we are doing a Zumba class, of course, many people have this myth that Zumba class is all about jumping and a lot of jerking moves always, but it is not so. Okay. So in Zumba we have high intensity songs and low intensity songs or rhythms which is called intermittent training. So we follow that method, and it's all the steps are not meant to hurt, or it's not always jumping or bouncing. There are very low impact steps or movements, and the movements are made suitable for everyone. Of course, many people do complain of having knee problems and other problems, but that is the problem of the individual instructor. If he or she is not taking the class properly or under correct supervision and doing the steps wrong, so that can happen with many people who don't know their work. Some instructors or some quack instructors which are there, and instructors also who don't know, so that could be injurious. Of course, wrong shoes sometimes is also a problem, where people hurt their knee because they're wearing the wrong shoes, because shoes are also very important for different kind of workout. So if you're doing a cardio workout, you need shoes. For cardio, if you're running, you need different kind of shoes. If you're doing strength training, so that is there, and otherwise the floor that you're working out. So sometimes the reasons are very different for a knee problem or a back problem that generally people have in Zumba. But yes, no program is made to or aimed at, you know, to give a person a back or a knee pain. Yeah. So of
Okay.
course, with proper care, I would say that no, it does not lead to injury at all. I have been into Zumba for about a decade now, and I can say that for sure that it only
Okay.
gives stress-free workout and no jerks. But yeah, good question, because that's a basic myth people have
Yes,
about.
yes. So there's a compliment from Nidhi Agarwal that Zumba heals her. So this is what she's posted. Okay, so we have a question from Vineet, and the question is, Vineet, when many students got to know that we have a wellness coach and a fitness expert coming, Vineet, are you there? I think some real technical problem is there with Vineet. Okay, so we go back to Ayushi again. So, Ayushi, when it comes to bodybuilding and strength training,
Yeah.
what is the right age that a student or a teenager should think of using those all gym equipments and the machines and all?
So it's not like a right age, what I would say something, but while the bones are growing and the muscle, the muscles are basically the bones are growing, you shouldn't probably go for a gym or high resistance training over there. Focus more on your sports, your running, all that, because it's like once you start the gymming, once you start the pumping of the muscles, once you're going to go right into it in your sports and all, you're going to start lagging. So probably once 21, 22, the spurt, the growing spurt, what we say, 22, 23, I feel that's a good age. Even then, when you're doing it with a good form, like, even if you're doing a bicep curl, the shoulder form, the elbow form, if all that is right and you're doing it, I think that's perfect to, go for gymming. And, like I said in my previous question also, it's not always about you going into gymming. Every boy is not that every boy has to go into gymming. There are various other ways to do a resistance workout, besides going into the gym. Probably just lying on the mat and, like I said again previously, doing a Pilates resistance workout. Even that is going to be equally as effective as gym. So again, depending on the body type, after your growth spurt has ended, you can choose whichever workout is suitable for you.
Okay, wonderful. Mansi, my question comes to you now.
Yeah.
So, firstly, we'll take a question we have from a viewer. The question is that do you think 6 meals a day is actually needed? Can it depend on an individual's goal?
Yeah, it depends on individual goal. It's not definitely necessary that you have to have a 6 meal. So there is a generally we put like a general dietitian like a mid morning is necessary, or maybe at 4 o'clock snack is important. Idea is to identify what is the client's or a patient's need as such. Whether he's extremely hungry, overeating in the one meal, then it's individualized. So if he's messing up it with his meals, then I would say that 6 meal is a great idea. And if not, like he has a good control, he's chewing well and he's eating nutrients well and not overdoing with the junk food, or doesn't have a emotional eating as a concept, so then he can go ahead with like maybe 4 major meals is also fine with them.
All right. So, we have another question for Ayushi. Ayushi, there's a question for you. It says, what would you suggest to heal a shoulder injury if it's not in interior delt nor felt in rotator cuff? Something like that. It's not written clearly.
Okay, I think she means anterior region and neither in the rotator cuff.
Correct,
Uh,
correct.
okay, so maybe your shoulder, it maybe that some joint. So the shoulder is made up of four joints. It's not just this one joint. There are four joints. It's made of the a head bone, the behind bone. It may be either of the bones is stiff and it requires to be mobilized. Stiff, it may have become in a certain workout or working at home. So maybe not on your shoulder exactly, the ball and socket, what we say. Maybe the joint ahead or the joint behind needs to be moved a little or mobilized a little, as we say in our physiotherapy terms, and it should relieve your pain. But definitely get it assessed by your physio or a physio who can help you out better once they see your shoulder.
Okay, okay. So, my question comes to Manisha now. Manisha, how important it is to uh, choose the right kind of shoes when it comes to Zumba, and how to select the right kind of shoes? So there are different shoes for cycling, there are different shoes for running. So I'm sure there will be different forms of shoes when it comes to Zumba fitness.
Yeah, so basically, good aerobic or dance shoes are also good for Zumba. So if you see, they are specifically made for dance movements, which are all kind of rotations. Your ankle is not only moving forward in running, so it is moving right, left, and back and circular. So the support of the ankle has to be there in the shoes so that you're not getting injury, right? So generally, if the dance shoes or the Zumba shoes, you'll see the base of the shoes has a circular motion, a circular kind of a grip, so that the rotation is easy in any dance class or a Zumba class. So of course, when you're buying a shoes, you should always see the sole of the shoes to see it has a circular motion. And of course, all fitness brands like Reebok, Nike, and of course Zumba has its own brand Zumba shoes. They are meant for dancing, which you can use safely, which would help you to move better in a class.
So there's a question for you, Manisha. It's asking, is Zumba preferred if you have bone density? Ayushi, you can also put in your comments in this if needed. Is Zumba preferred if you have bone density?
Well,
Yes, Manisha.
Ayushi, want to reply?
No, I think we'll start with Manisha.
Of course, Zumba you can do, it would help. In fact, if you have a bone density issue, but yes, you can, it can be easily done. It's a cardio workout. You're not going to have any problem if you have a bone density issue. That means you have very easily breaking bones. So yeah, we are not going to fall down. We never bending too low. We're not squatting in a Zumba class. So I think it's very safe for all ages, in fact, to do. And of course, there are some specific specialty Zumba classes like Zumba Gold class, which is meant for active older. And there is Zumba Kids class, which is meant for kids. So you have to see a class which is suitable for you and go for those classes. Yeah.
Okay. Ayushi, would you want to add something to this?
The first in the shoes one, I would like to add actually that I think even she would agree if at all there are injuries in Zumba or any fitness for that matter, it is also because of your foot posture at times. What we know is as the arc, which our arch, the foot has, and what you say as flat foot. And if not flat foot, the arc is too high. Like the arc of our foot, what we have is either too flat or too high. Sometimes, because of that, also it leads to injuries in the knee or back because of a foot posture. And now there are specific shoes or insoles which correct that. If your arc is too high, to press that so your posture overall is right. And if your arc is too low, a specific insole after getting your foot assessed to wear that so it will avoid injury in whichever you're doing, your Zumba or whatever, because your whole body is supported in the shoe. And all these Reebok, Asics, I think, have those shoes. And about the bone density one, of course, if your bone density is low, you should start with check your vitamin D and calcium supplements and up that. And a low intensity Zumba will be a good weight bearing activity for you. Maybe not high intensity, but a low intensity with good strengthening would be very good for them also.
Okay, that's really nice. There's a question for Mansi. Mansi, the question is it necessary to take a protein shake if one is a vegetarian?
It's not necessary, but generally, if your meals is only small meals, like you're just having a 2 to 3 meals a day, then again, you're not able to meet your body requirements of a protein, and protein is very important in terms of healing. So it makes sure that if you're having a protein shake, that the quality of a protein what you are reaching is the best. So it's like if you're me, I would say it's very neutral way of saying yes as well as no to it. But it depends. Like, what's your day? Like, is you having a small frequent meals, or is just have a 2 meals, or what is your you are sedentary worker or a moderate worker? All depends on the protein requirements. It's not a baseline that all the vegetarians need a protein shake for sure.
Okay.
So yeah.
Great. So, all right, we are very close to end the show. So we'll start with Manisha with the 3 takeaways for all our viewers.
Okay, my first takeaway would be don't be afraid to be vulnerable. So you have to get up, show up, be there, give your 100%, and don't get intimidated whether you're going to be there, get there or not, because that is something you just can't control. Okay, so giving is always a for any purpose in life. It might be maybe for workout or for any life skills. What you give in is what you get out. So put in your 100%, but don't fret about things which you can't control about.
Superb. Mansi, your three takeaways.
So I would say every time you eat is an opportunity to nourish your body. So do not starve yourself, but eat good nutrients in your plate. So we generally focus on the food, but we never focus on the nutrients. So I feel focusing on the nutrient is very important. That is one. Then ensure that you have a good sleep. So when I say good sleep, it's not meant like you have to have an 8 hours or 10 hours of sleep, but the quality of sleep matters a lot. Even if you are sleeping for 5 hours, but the quality of sleep, and when you're waking up, you are fresh enough, then the quality of sleep was nice. So that you should
Very nice.
maintain. And another thing is do not eat slowly. Generally, we tend to eat very fast, so we tend not able to absorb the nutrients. So it's very basic, but it's that small and easy tip. I would say eat slowly. Chew each and every morsel of your food so that your food is been absorbed. The idea is to absorb and to achieve your goal, your health
Okay,
goals. Yeah.
wonderful. What about you, Ayushi? Your three takeaways.
So, first to everybody is let your fitness, nutrition, and physio all three go hand in hand. It's not just the diet, it's not just the fitness, and it's not just the physiotherapy, which is going to give you no pain or the goal or everything. Especially seen through this lockdown, let all three go hand in hand. The second one would be like don't ignore your pain or don't ignore what you're feeling. It's your body talking to you. Even if you feel, oh, I'm slouching, but that's okay. It's not giving me pain or something. Don't ignore it. Pay attention to it, correct it immediately, and yeah, get on track immediately. And third, I guess, would be don't push yourself too hard. It's okay to take a day rest. It's okay to probably call a doctor and just get it checked once. It's okay to not take a painkiller once and go to a physio and maybe look at other options. Don't just opt for the quickest painkiller option and suppress it. It's
True.
okay to take it slow and get on track.
Very true. So, before we Avantika takes it over, I want to thank all three of you for this insightful and wonderful session. I'm sure all the viewers are going to learn a lot. We are going to post all the links to reach out to the experts you want to reach out for all the viewers. All the links will be there on our page. And before we wind up and before Avantika takes up, after all our events, we give a virtual warm hug to all the panelists. So kindly take this hug from our side and from the entire team of Vatsalya Legacy. Thank you so much. So Avantika, you can take over now.
Thank you all the panelists for such a wonderful and eye-opening session. Friends, Vatsalya Legacy has been pioneered with many path-breaking things that change for better. And it has been pioneered by nationally twice and 5 times by the state. The services has been applauded by various renowned organizations and leading media channels as well as newspapers. We always believed that learning is a continuous process and to empower individuals, we are here with the empowering talks. So the next talk is on 27th June with some renowned educationists from the country. By the time, have a great weekend, great week ahead. Stay home, stay safe. Thank you so much.
Thank you all. Thank you, Avantika. And thank you, Karan, who's handling everything backstage. Thank you so much, Karan.
Thank you, Nisha. It was great being here. Thank you,
Good night,
Vandana.
everybody.
Thank you, Mansi. Thank you, Aishi. Bye.
Bye.